Has the current situation impacted your mental health? Has it made you depressed? Has it got you worried or anxious? You're not alone. Anxiety, depression, fear is taking a toll on our mental health, particularly on our young students. A lot of people are facing problems because of the current situation, and that is why we are here to talk to you about mental health and how we could cope with the current situation.
Upholding the mission of Don Bosco, our patron, we hope to reach out to each and every youngster through this national webinar so that we can make a difference to you all and solutions can be found in this dark, lonely and anxious passage of time.
The Don Bosco strategy of caring for the young and showing them the right way and instilling the right values is so very important. We hope that this webinar on techniques of learning how to live a happier life would help you and in many ways give you techniques and skills to live a better life. Welcome to the webinar.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for joining us on this occasion of the World Mental Health Day. I, Zanetta De Mello, Assistant Professor in Psychology and faculty member here at Don Bosco College, Panjim, Goa. On behalf of my institution, I would like to welcome you all to this national webinar on adaptive coping strategies during the pandemic, organized by the Department of Physical Education. Before we begin with today's session, I request our participants to refrain from posting greetings in the comment box, but please feel free to type your queries at any point of time. Your feedback is valuable to us in organizing future webinars. Hence, there will be a link to a brief questionnaire shared to you at the end of the webinar. On completion of the feedback form, your e-certificates will be emailed. We have two eminent speakers with us here today, Ms. Nishta Budiraja and Dr. Janki Diol. Our first speaker, Ms. Nishta Budiraja, is a neuro and child psychologist and the co-founder of Samarthya, Door Towards Possibilities. Samarthya is a child development center that provides various therapy services for children, adolescents, families, and couples. She has been working in the field of clinical and child psychology since 2009 and has certifications in play and art therapy. Some of the areas that Ms. Budiraja is trained in include adult psychopathology, family and couples counseling, among others. Ms. Budiraja, we are grateful to have you join us for this session to help us find effective ways to cope during this pandemic.
Thank you, Zinita, for having me. Thank you, Don Bosco College, for having me speak today's webinar. And thank you, everyone, for joining. I understand it's the afternoon and after lunch, everyone's going to be a little lazy. But I expect full participation and full interaction with all of you. Interact with me through the chat box. So if all of you are present, alive and kicking, I want you to write in the chat box that we are present. So write the word present in the chat box, and then we'll begin with the webinar. A couple of things I wanted to just share with you. First thing is we have a designated time for question and answers. So park your questions. Even if you put it in the chat box, you'll have to put them again in the chat box in the question and answer time. So because it might just get lost. Another thing is I do expect participation, like I said. So I'm going to be asking you to put certain words in the chat box so that I come to know that all of you are there present, and this is going to be an interactive session. So I expect everyone to be present and interacting with me. Okay, so I have a few presents there. All right. Shall we start with the webinar, with the content of it? So if you want me to start, type out start, please. Thank you. All right, I'm going to start. Okay, so mental health is something that is often neglected. And it's neglected due to a lot of reasons. One of the reasons being that it's not really very visible. So mental health issues and mental disability is not something that you can actively in people. A person with mental health issues is not going to limp or is not going to have a cast on their hand. So it's very difficult to see. So one of the first things that we need to understand is what's the difference between stress and anxiety. Stress is something that is a set of responses that are often triggered by a stressor, which may be real or which may not be real. So, a real stress would be upcoming exams, but a perceived stressor would be I'm going to fail in all of my exams, which is highly unlikely. So, that's what stress often is called. And anxiety is a constant state of feeling apprehension, fear, and tension, and it is marked with bodily symptoms. So, these bodily symptoms could be you can have a headache, you can have shortness of breath, your heart rate can go up and down, and you're unable to concentrate on the tasks at hand, unable to sleep, loss of appetite, and things like that. So, anxiety is marked with certain bodily symptoms. That's the major difference between stress and anxiety. Moving on, why is mental health stigmatized? It's usually stigmatized all over the world, but in India specifically, it's stigmatized more because of lack of awareness as well. First thing is that it's an invisible problem. There's lack of awareness, there's lack of resources as well. So therapists are not available. From the recent statistics that I read last night was there is one therapist for every 300,000 individuals. The healthcare system also does not cover mental health issues. So you cannot find any insurance policy out there that will cover your therapy sessions. And then there's a lot of denial as well that our child does not have a problem, the world has a problem, they are labeling our child and things like that. Moving on, one thing I really would want to say, you are struggling, you are not insane or you're not crazy. Just because you're asking for help, and I do strongly feel that all of us need help at any given point in time our lives. We are struggling. There are different things that are being bombarded to us at every given point in time, especially with the pandemic. Even I struggle. My mentors and my supervisors also struggle. We're all human beings. It's very natural to struggle, and it's okay to ask for help. Please pick up that phone, call up your best friend, pick up that phone, call up a helpline, and ask for help. If you're struggling and you're not able to cope, my sincere request, please. If you all agree with me that you're going to today decide and ask for help, type out in the chat box agree. Thank you. I'll move on. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about coping. What are the different types of coping? So one is problem focused, the other one is emotion focused. So no one particular type of coping fits everyone. Sometimes we are problem focused, sometimes we are emotion focused. So for problem focused, we often to tackle the problem or tackle the task and cope with it. In emotion focused, we try to reduce our emotions by maybe avoiding the task, by getting so fearful that we are we have no motivation to even complete that task. Sometimes when exams are there, we don't want to study because we don't have any motivation. That's emotion focused coping. Problem focused coping is there is an exam, you are stressed out, you are feeling anxious, but you do decide that I'm going to cover 2 pages in a day. That's problem focused coping. The whole point of coping is the bodily balance needs to be maintained. Whether it's your physical balance, whether it's your emotional balance, or it's your mental balance. So now we'll talk about the strategies and skills that we can use in order to cope with different issues. And these different issues can be issues in your everyday life. It could be something that's brought about by the pandemic. And it just could be your academic or professional stressors that you have. All right. Everybody's up, alive and kicking. So give me a double thumbs up in the chat box. Great. I'm going to move on. So the first set of strategies are behavioral strategies. So it's focused on regulating your behaviors. So the first one is communicate your struggle. How can you communicate your struggle? You might think, how do I talk to somebody that I need help? How do I communicate with my best friend that I'm not doing so well? So the first thing that you can do is write a text, an email, or draw a postcard, but don't send it. The point is to understand what you're feeling, to articulate it, put it on a piece of paper, and read it again and understand what you want to say. So you almost have a script ready. Then what you can do is get a trusted third person involved when you're disclosing it to a significant other. It could be a parent, it could be your teacher, it could be your partner, it could be your family. So if you trust maybe your aunt or your best friend, get them involved so that you have a support system when you're communicating that I am struggling, I need help. Then the third one is that you get your facts right. By that, I mean understand whether you need a psychiatrist's help or a psychologist's help. In your case, will medication help or therapy will help or counseling will help? In your case, maybe just supportive work might help. So just go online, read blogs, read people's experiences, talk to people through Facebook or LinkedIn, share in groups anonymously that you're struggling. Reddit is a great platform that you can go to and share your struggles anonymously. Then very important thing is reinforce each other's faith by saying that we are in this together. We are going to overcome this together. We are a team. When you're disclosing it to your significant other, to be able to just get them also at peace so that they can help you help yourself. Right? And the most important is assertive communication. So that's basically how you communicate yourself. How do you express yourself in front of your teachers, your parents, especially people who are important in your life? It starts with taking responsibility. Instead of saying, you did this, you go ahead and say, I feel this. The whole narrative of the communication changes. Instead of telling the other person, maybe you had a fight with your significant other. Your partner said something that, it hurt you. So instead of saying, you said this, you should not have said that, you say, I felt neglected. I felt that I was unimportant in your life. That's why you said something like this. And it made me sad. You see the change in the tone when you're asserting yourself and telling them that I am the one who felt like this. I don't want to feel like this. Let's work towards changing something which is not healthy for me. Or maybe it's not healthy for the both of us. Another thing that you can use is in my opinion. So this is something that you can use when you're expressing something. So for example, you're having a conversation about politics with your parents. You can go ahead and say that in my opinion, so-and-so candidate will do much better than so-and-so candidate for citizens of India. Instead of saying, I am against this political party. It's just a better way to communicate what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And you can also say when someone's saying that, okay, let's go there, do this, and it's a pandemic outside and you really don't want to go because of health reasons and the risk of, getting infected, you can say that, listen, I do not agree with you. If you want to go, please go ahead, but I'll not be able to join you. You don't have to apologize because it's a decision that you have made, but communicate what you need, what you require in that moment. Because unless you don't do that, people will not come to know. Nobody can read minds. Nobody can understand what you need till the time you communicate. It's one of the most important skills of existing in a social structure with your family, with your college mates, with your friends, with your partner, with your relatives. It's very important. Okay, so for all of those who decide to be more assertive today, write the word assert, ASSERT, in the chat box, please. Thank you. I'll move on. So the second one is one of the most important things for adolescents and college students is coping with exam stress. Now, exam stress is something that you, me, everybody has experienced at any given point in time. So the first thing is identify the nature of your stress realistically. So you evaluate whether the stress that you're experiencing is realistic, it's real, or it's perceived. So, for example, your stress would be real if you fear failing in your least favorite subject. So, I really don't like maths. In 10th, I would be fearful of the fact that I'm going to fail maths. So, that's very real because I'm not interested in studying it. I will be more stressful towards it versus actually feeling that I'm going to fail every subject, even your favorite subject. So, that's a little unrealistic. So second one is evaluate your resources. How much syllabus do you have left? Can you plan in more efficiently as to how to go about covering that syllabus? What topic needs just revision? What topic needs more practice? What topic needs more learning? So evaluate your resources very realistically. How much time do you have? How much notes do you need to cover? Do you need to arrange for notes from someone? Do you need to maybe use a guidebook instead of a textbook? So, and it's okay to do that in your exams. It's not taking a shortcut, especially when you're stressed out. But I'm not saying use guidebooks, no. But yes, towards the end, if you feel that a guidebook may help you revise better, by all means, please. For revision, it's a great tool. And the most important thing is take help, whether it's from your friends doing a group study, from your teachers, from your tutor, from a neighbor, or maybe just during your exams, call up a helpline and tell them that you're feeling stressed and you don't understand what to do. So taking help is really very important. So if you've understood coping with exam stress, write exam stress in the chat box, please, for me. Thank you. So I'll move on. I hope I'm not going too fast. One of the most important techniques is taking a time out, taking a break. And these breaks have to be slightly planned in advance and need to be slightly strategic in nature. So for example, if you plan to study 3 hours today, and towards the end of 1.5 hour, you feel that you're getting tired, go to the washroom, wash your face, take a walk outside in the balcony, take a 5-10 minute break, come back and complete the 1.5 hours of study that's left. Right? And it's very important to give your body a break also. We're almost on the screen all the time. All the classes are happening online. The eyes, the mind, the brain, they get fatigued. So do something to relieve that physical tension that's there in your eyes. A very basic yoga exercise is just, cupping your eyes for a while, closing your eyes and cupping them. Make sure the room is dark and your eyes get the rest that they need. For your physical body, drink lots of water, take a walk around, do some jogging, do some exercise. And then most importantly, in this pandemic, one thing the pandemic has taken from us is how we structure and routine our day. So if we decided to, let's suppose, wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning because we've got college or we've got school, or maybe we have to go to work, that 7 o'clock has gone down to 9 o'clock because it's work from home. Classes start at 9:30, so everybody's waking up 5-10 minutes before just the class. So that entire routine is sort of, it's so haphazard and unstructured. We're sleeping at 2 or 3 in the night without realizing, because we're not even able to sleep. We feel that we've got a low productive day. So it's very important to take that time out strategically so that you don't reach burnout. And burnout is not a very good stage to reach. Mental, physical exhaustion to the point where your body cannot function. So use this time out very wisely. Very important, it is to take a mindful time out, to be able to listen to your body. So you learn to relax, do some deep breathing, muscle relaxation, stretching, go for some physical activity. One of the physical activities that I really like is for 2 minutes, I do on the spot jogging, especially when I'm feeling sleepy between sessions, or maybe when I'm very tired, I need a burst of energy. So instead of going for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I just do 2 minutes spot jogging and I'm up and fresh. You can also use visualization where you close your eyes, relax, take a few deep breaths, and imagine your goal. Imagine yourself, whatever you want to do in life. Imagine that. That will not just help you take a break, it will also help you motivate yourself. So, for example, when I was in college, I wanted to have my own clinic, which I'm able to have at this stage. So, I would close my eyes. I would imagine how I want my clinic. I would imagine the clothes that I'd be wearing. I would imagine the color of the walls. I would imagine how my sessions would go about. And that would really give me motivation, energy, and a new zeal to study more. Another thing that you can do is use food as reinforcement, food and smells. So I absolutely love coffee. And I have this box of coffee beans in my clinic. I don't have them here. So every time I would feel exhausted, I would just open and I would just smell it, and it will help me, take a short few second break and motivate me, and I would just go about doing my work next. You can shower with your favorite shampoo, take a time out, go for a bath, take your favorite shampoo, wash your hair with it, take your favorite fragrance, put it on yourself. That's also a short break that you can, strategically manage in your session, in your schedule. Maybe have your favorite essential oil nearby on your table when you're studying. Okay, moving on. Very important exercise, and I really want all of you to do this exercise for a short duration with me. So you get in a comfortable place, relax, and feel connected to yourself. Right? Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. And now I want you to squeeze every muscle that you have in your body. Try to squeeze it as much as possible. So tighten up your entire body. Now feel in control of all of your body, your muscles, every single muscle. So tighten your entire body. Now slowly release. How does it feel? Type out in the chat box how it feels. So this is a very short exercise that you can do to just relax your entire body. The whole point is to relieve the tension from your body, from head to toe. You can do this lying down on the bed, you can do this sitting, you can do this standing. Another thing you can do is touch your toes. So that's also a form of body squeezing exercise. I hope you like this exercise. If you like this exercise, type like in the chat box, please, for me. Thank you. I'm going to move on. Inculcate healthy habits. This is something that a lot of adolescents and college going students are lacking at this point, and parents complain the most about these, that they don't have a fixed routine, they are not exercising, they don't have a fixed sleep time or wake up time. And it's very important to have all of these healthy habits to be able to cope with everyday stressors. So if your sleep time, your sleeping time is fixed and your waking time is fixed, you are getting 6 to 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep at night, your body will be more fresh when you wake up in the morning, charged up, and to be able to face all the stressors that you have in your life. If you have a fixed routine, you're not constantly thinking about, okay, so what do I do next? How do I manage my time better? This assignment is coming, what do I do now? So that's very important. It's extremely important to have an organized environment. So basically the bed is only for sleeping. The study room is only for studying. Maybe your study room, bedroom, your dining table is only there for eating food on. I mean, that's why it's called a dining table, right? Study table, it's called study table. You study on it. You don't eat food on it. So, yeah. Then try to plan 1 or 2 days in advance. So, if I have to plan tomorrow, I would know that I need to make sure that I only take 4 or 5 sessions in a day, because it becomes very mentally exhausting. And then I would manage it, so, because it's my dad's off tomorrow, so we do tend to go out sometimes. And since it's the pandemic, we've not been able to go out, so we make sure that towards the end of the day, maybe at around 8 or 9 o'clock, we sit down as a family and spend time with each other. So we end up playing some board games, some card games. And so that planning helps, and that routine setting also helps in connecting with your family members. And try and take out some time to do one activity in a day for yourself that makes you happy, that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel that you have fulfilled your responsibilities towards yourself, because that's extremely important. Right? So, moving on, if you believe that there are certain habits that you want to change from today, type out the word change for me. And even if you've decided to change one habit today, done. Good, you've spent 1 hour learning something and your time is well managed. Great. I will move on. Now, this is one of the cognitive techniques that takes a while to be able to master, but this is where most of your emotional problems and your thoughts and your perception and emotions will come about. So one thing that you can do in mastering your own thoughts is journaling. So journaling is just take a piece of paper, write all the positive events that have happened today and the negative events that have happened today. Start off with something like that, wherein all the events in the day, you get them out of your system. You know how your day went, and you're not just focusing on either the negatives too much or the positive too much. You're being very balanced and very realistic. As a habit, journaling is something that I even suggest children as young as 6 or 7 years old. They're able to write down very beautifully. Good things that happened today were 1, 2, 3, 4. Bad things that happened today were 1, 2, 3, 4. Then when you're journaling, try to find a pattern. Are you overthinking? Are you thinking, okay, what's going to happen 5 years down the line? Okay, you've planned your 5 years down the line. You've imagined it. Now work towards making that possible. Instead of just thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen after 5 years? Or, oh my God, what's going to happen when the economy crashes in a few months? It might not crash. It might not crash. Then are you generalizing? So one of those common things that I see a lot of adolescents saying is that the other gender, they are not loyal. It's a generalizing statement. If you feel that the other gender is not loyal, then you probably are not going to find a partner in the other gender. Or you may not be able to trust a friend from the other gender, right? Then you might just be dismissing the positives and only focusing on the negatives. There might be unrealistic evaluations. So when I'm going to do this, I'm going to have so much money, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. That's an unrealistic evaluation. We do have certain things in mind that we would want to do when we achieve our dreams. But that also needs to be a little realistic. What we call daydreaming and living in our fantasy world. Realism, realistic. And having unhealthy expectations from people. So an unhealthy expectation that I've seen a lot of adolescents have, and I'll share this from experience, is that they feel that their parents, their partners, or any significant other needs to share everything with them all the time. It's an unrealistic expectation. You would not share everything with one person at all times. It's humanly not possible. So try and understand whether something is humanly possible or not. If it's not possible, then it's an unrealistic expectation. Drop it. Then ask for evidence from yourself. If you're overthinking or overgeneralizing, ask yourself, how many events have happened for me to come to this conclusion? Maybe 1, maybe 2. It's not like every day you don't find any one person from the opposite gender that you can trust. You will find someone. You will find one evidence for sure. So ask yourself that. Then self-instruction is very important. I mean, I crave ice cream at 12 o'clock. I have to tell myself that, listen, not the right time to eat ice cream. go to sleep. Drink some water, go to sleep. You just want to eat it because you are craving something sweet. It doesn't mean that you have to go and eat it. So that's how I change my thought process and master my thoughts and tell myself that you don't need to eat ice cream at 12 o'clock in the night. Not required. All right. For everyone who feel that they've learned something from this side, put thoughts in the chat box for me, please. All right. Thank you. Moving on. Understand your strengths. This is extremely important a skill. Even if you master this skill today, 1 hour of your life successfully spent on learning something for yourself. So in your phones or on a piece of paper, I want you to make a list of 3 strengths just now. We're going to do this activity just now. Any 3 strengths. And now in your free time, I want you to expand this list and make it 10 strengths. And how are you going to do this? Is you're going to ask yourself, is there something that I'm naturally good at? Is there something that I enjoy about myself? And here I would want to say that don't write qualities and strengths that others have told you about yourself or you feel is correct or appropriate. No. Write what you think is correct and appropriate. How do you see yourself? For me, I am organized. So one of my strengths is that I'm organized. Another thing that I'm very compassionate and empathetic. So I listen to other people. So that's another strength that I have. Another thing that I have is I pay attention to details. So I care about people. If there is a need that they have, that, I'm not feeling very good. So I might not be able to physically go and visit my friend. I would probably send them some sweets, or I would probably send them their favorite dish through online food ordering apps. So even if I cannot be there physically, I at least try to be with them emotionally or mentally. So I pay attention to people's needs. So if you've written 3 strengths, if you've identified those 3 strengths, I would really want one of you to just put it in the chat box, your 3 strengths. Anybody, just one person, put your 3 strengths down in the chat box. Thank you. All right. So why are we going to do this? We're doing this because we want to understand how to solve our problems based on our strengths. So if there's a problem, I want you to go back to this list of 10 strengths that you'll develop in the next 1 or 2 days and ask yourself which strength, which quality of mine will help me solve this problem. So I'm going to share an example with you right now, and I have full consent of this person whose example I'm sharing with you, so no ethical breaching is happening. So Mr. A is an 18-year-old male who is struggling with anxiety related to his career choices. This is probably something that a lot of you college students might relate with. So his strengths are persistence, he's cautious, and he's got faith. So we brainstormed, we came up with realistic goals, and through collaborative effort with me as the therapist and my client, we understood how over time having realistic evaluation of situations and going on the career path and using this persistence to be able to achieve the target goal. So the target goal was to come up with realistic career choices that the student can opt for. So in the next session, so the next session was about a week later. So in that 1 week, I wanted him to research on the areas of interest that he had and persists on, doing that research from 7 o'clock in the night to 8 o'clock in the night and come up with logical choices. And then we would discuss it in the next session. Then the second the second quality that they have is they're cautious. So they have a low risk taking ability. Then we use that to come up with safety measures in case that plan A fails. So plan A was they decided to become a pilot. And after that, if plan A fails, then what would be the plan B? Or designing safety measures that, okay, if plan A fails and you're not able to become a pilot, what can you do? What all other skills do you have that you can transform into a career? So we did that safety planning for plan B as well. And faith, we used this during counseling to make him feel that he's important and that he needs to have faith in his decision and faith in his quality of persistence to be able to take him to on his chosen career path and overcome his limitations. I hope that was an example that you all could relate with. If you can relate with it, type relate in the chat box, please, for me. Thank you. Moving on. So we've come to the end of the webinar. I'll take questions. These are certain important numbers and contact information that I wanted to share with you. So suicide helplines and COVID response helpline. So there's iCall, then there's Fortis Stress helpline, there's COVID response helpline that I have also worked with. Low cost options for counseling. We've got Manav Foundation, Eastside Clinic, Well Heard, TikTok too. And there's also me. You can contact me on my email address. It's buddhiraja.nish@gmail.com. So queer-friendly psychotherapy is something that you can find at therapizeindia.com, and also you can contact me. So if there's anyone who needs help, please reach out. There are options available, low-cost options available as well, free options available as well. As long as you really feel that you need help, we are there to support you. Just ask for it, communicate, because there's nobody out there who can read your mind and understand whether you need help at this point or maybe you need help after 1 week. You will have to take that charge and communicate. Just find one person to communicate to. Once you develop that confidence to be able to communicate to them that I need help, then you'll have the confidence to pick up the phone and call one of the helplines, and they'll probably guide you better. Or maybe shoot an email to some therapist that you connect with. Go on LinkedIn, go on Facebook, type psychotherapist, you'll find a lot of them. Find one person that you can communicate to, one picture on Facebook of a therapist that you can connect to. Go through with that. Cult Fit also has an option of counselors and therapists that they have. So maybe if you're more comfortable not disclosing your face, you can have your video off and just converse with them. You want your identity to stay anonymous, even that's an option. So just communicate and ask for help, and it's okay to ask for help. We understand that you're struggling. We are not labeling you. We don't think you're insane. We are not judgmental. We will not talk about you behind your back. That's for sure. We're all trained not to do all of this. And we're not your neighborhood auntie who's going to gossip about you. Never going to happen. If you have an ethical therapist, it will not happen. Find the right ethical therapist for you, whom you can work with in a team, whom you are comfortable with. Right? Please reach out. Thank you so much. And we'll take questions now.
Thank you, Nishta, for your lovely session. I'm sure all of us will benefit greatly from the tips and techniques that you shared with us. Could I have some questions in the comment section so that we can take it up? But till then, could you help us maybe in terms of how do we choose a therapist, or how can we choose a counselor? Because a lot of us aren't aware of the technicalities that go into counseling. So maybe something that you could tell us in terms of your experience.
Firstly, gender does play a lot of a really major role in it. Some males are only comfortable with male therapists. Some males are comfortable only with female therapists. So introspect, what kind of a therapist would you want? From my experience, I have had a few clients who just excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah.
God
So
bless
I
you.
have a few. Thank you. So I have had a few clients who call me and they ask me how old am I, and I have to be honest with them. So I tell them my age, and then they're like, "You're practically a child." I said, "Yes, ma'am. My parents are probably your age or maybe younger than you. I might be a child in front of you in terms of age, but I am very experienced and I've dealt with the problems of the age group that you are from. So I'm experienced, I am trained, and if you feel comfortable in coming to me, please come. If not, then I can also refer a therapist who's probably older than you, depending on your comfort level." So for that, you will have to introspect whether what kind of gender do you want. Do you want somebody from your native speaking language? Would you be more comfortable expressing to them? Age-wise, maybe socioeconomic status. Maybe you would benefit more from a free therapy because you cannot afford therapy, or maybe there's a tight budget. So look into those elements. So there are a lot of people who do give up, therapy for free. I have interns who don't charge any money. I don't charge any money for people who come into my clinic and tell me that I can't afford therapy. I'm not able to take their sessions personally, so I tend to supervise my interns and I tell them what to do, what not to do as a part of their training process. So the informed consent would be like that. That this is a person who's in training, and this is your low cost option. So at that point, that will be a more feasible option for them. So
Okay.
maybe look into those aspects.
We have another question. Can you describe for us what are the symptoms of an anxiety and panic attack, and maybe how to cope with that if someone is experiencing a panic attack?
So panic and anxiety are often misinterpreted. They are often by people, they correlate. So if they're experiencing panic, they would still call it anxiety. Some people experience anxiety and they call it panic. So the major difference between anxiety is a free floating nervousness and apprehension that you feel. Panic is a full blown panic attack that lasts for a few minutes, wherein the patient or the client actually feels like they're going to die of a heart attack. So that element of I am going to die, my body is going to give up, that's there in a panic attack. And for both of them, one of the techniques that works very beautifully is the deep breathing exercise. And the deep breathing exercise, the one that you take a deep breath and not your chest, but your stomach rises and falls. It's also called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. If you just put it on YouTube, you'll find n number of videos that will teach you how to do belly breathing. And it's a beautiful technique. It just dissipates the panic within seconds, within minutes. So that feeling of the fact that I've lost control all over my body and my body is going to give up and I'm going to die, it's breathing is one of those techniques that will quickly take you out of that zone. So that will be one technique that will be very beneficial. Another technique is just ground yourself. Maybe take off your slippers, take off any uncomfortable clothes that you have, take off your belt especially, and just lie down. Just feel the texture of the material that you're lying down in. Or maybe when you take off your slippers, just feel the floor, ground yourself, clutch the floor with your feet to the best of your ability, or just hold any handle or any armrest of the chair, like clutch it tightly so that your body sort of regains that control. Blood flows in other parts, your extremities, your hands and legs, instead of just going to your heart and making it feel like as though I'm going to have a heart attack. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. We have another question. A lot of us have been homebound due to the coronavirus pandemic. So, how can individuals help or how can they deal with loneliness during this time?
um, Two things. One is communicate, talk to your friends, do not isolate yourself. I understand it's very easy to isolate yourself. It's one of those things that comes naturally to us when we are overwhelmed. But push through and talk to a trusted friend, talk to someone who's close to you, whom you can trust. Just communicate, even if it is that, talk to them, call them up and ask them, listen, I don't want to hear your voice, I just want you to hear me out, and just vent. Just ask them if they're okay with hearing you out, and just ask them to not speak. And I'm sure if they're close to you, they will understand it. Another second thing that I suggest to everyone is pick up an expressive outlet. So art is something that works beautifully for children who are not even verbal. So it works really well. You don't need to be a very good artist. Just pick up some color, any crayon, anything. Sketch pens, I would say avoid. Crayon, color, paints, pigments, and just scribble on the paper. Tear paper up. If you feel like dancing, switch on the music, dance. There are certain sounds that are available on YouTube, nature sounds. So listen to those sounds while you're doing any sort of artwork. So it could be raindrops, it could be snowflakes, it could be white noise, it could be waves crashing, or the beach sound, or maybe walking in the sand, any ASMR also. So any sound that helps you calm down while you're, expressing yourself. Maybe make a collage. If you feel that you're bad at drawing, don't draw, make a collage. Cut up things from the magazine, print out things, uh, tear paper up, anything. Just make a weird collage, throw paint on it. Just get it out of your system. Where you feel that if not anybody else, you are there to manage your loneliness. You are there for yourself.
I think we have time for a couple more questions. So we have a question: what is the difference between anxiety, depression, and tension?
Okay, tension is something that we experienced on an everyday basis. We tend to not even give it much thought. So, for example, you would feel tensed when you're crossing a traffic light at the last 2 or 3 seconds. That's tension, right? So anxiety is an intense surge of feelings of apprehension, where your body also shows symptoms. So your heart rate would shoot up. Your heart rate would probably not shoot up when you're crossing the traffic light in the last 2 seconds. Your body will not feel uneasy, your stomach will not feel uneasy. So that's the difference between tension and anxiety. Depression, on the other hand, is intense phases of sadness and depressed mood. And it's not just sadness that you overcome or snap out of. No, that doesn't happen. So it's a persistently sad phase wherein you feel so depressed that you don't feel like doing anything. There is a loss of pleasure in everyday activity. So, for example, for a person who loves dancing or who loves reading, they don't dance and they don't read for a significant amount of time. That's when you know that they've lost the pleasure and they've lost that happiness in doing that particular activity. So that is depression. Depression is something that needs to be there for a significant period of time to be able to call itself as depression. Otherwise, it's just persistently sad state.
Um, we have another question. She wants to know if there's anything that can be done if she constantly thinks of something negative. She finds it very difficult to sort of be positive. So is there anything that people can do to, shift from being negative to being more optimistic?
So, when you're thinking these negative thoughts, I want you to start journaling and try to find a pattern. You'll be able to find a pattern. So, it'll probably be unrealistic evaluations, unrealistic expectations from people and yourself. You're probably thinking too much about the future. You're probably thinking about things that'll probably not happen ever. It's not going to be like that because of the coronavirus pandemic, half of the population is going to get wiped off. No, there are treatment available. You need to get tested. You need to you need to identify whether you have COVID-19, or do you have something else that also looks like COVID-19. I had viral about a month ago, and I got tested for COVID, and The symptoms are very similar. You have blocked sinuses, you've got cold, you've got cough, and there is, itchiness in the throat, and there is fever. And I got tested, and mine came out as viral. So you need to be able to identify what thought pattern do you have to be able to make it more positive. Are you overgeneralizing? Are you thinking only in binaries? Are you expecting things that are probably not going to happen? So identify your pattern. Only then can you make it more positive. And you can also try distracting yourself. So if you plan out your day, and you'll find that most people have negative thoughts right before they sleep. So you plan out your day in such a way that you're able to tell yourself that I've had a very productive day, and these negative thoughts are not going to, do me any good. So I'll just put them aside. And it's not easy to put them aside. Trust me, I know that it's not easy. The first thing that you need to do is identify it. Take the first step, take the smallest step, and it will happen. It's not impossible, it is not easy, but it is doable.
In the past, a lot of us are aware that mental health was not given so much of attention or focus, and a lot of times people were stereotyped or considered crazy. Could you share with us the importance of recognizing and working on our mental health?
Yeah, like I always say that, you cannot have unstable roots and feel and think that, the tree is going to bear beautiful fruits. Not possible. The tree is going to fall. So your roots need to be stable. Your mental health needs to be, I won't say perfect at all times. Perfection itself is a myth. Your mental health needs to be stable for you to be able to carry out your everyday tasks and responsibilities. If you're not in a good headspace, you'll not be able to fulfill your responsibilities. There's going to be a lot of guilt, and then you're going to sort of keep on going back to that self-fulfilling prophecy. The cycle will keep on continuing. So it's extremely important to understand where you're struggling and who's going to be the right person to be able to help you come out of the struggle. For some people, it's a friend. A lot of people you must have heard say that, I didn't need a therapist. I just talked to my best friend and I felt better. Yes, probably your coping style matched with your friend's understanding and communication, and that's how you got out of it. Sometimes those things don't match. And when they don't match, you need a professional. Talk to your teacher, the most trusted teacher that you have. Just talk, communicate. First, accept it to yourself, communicate it to yourself that I am struggling, I need help. And that's the only thing I reinforce as a mental health professional. Please accept it to yourself that you need help, and it's okay to need help. If a child did not need help, the child would have never learned to walk. As a parent, as a therapist, as a relative, we also help the child to walk. The help is the same, the support is the same. We are the walkers. You are going to do the walking. I'm not going to do the walking for you.
As we wind up, would you be able to address maybe how parents and children who are stuck at home right now during this time can manage themselves at home? Because a lot of times I feel like there are a lot of conflicts that happen, especially because we're all tied down to the same space.
Absolutely. I feel in the pandemic, instead of families coming together because they have a lot of time with each other, they've grown apart. Because of that, they've got different interests. Everybody has a smartphone. They're spending most of the time on the smartphone, just scrolling in their own bubble. I've seen that interactions between each other as a family has gone down. So if all of you come up with a routine wherein, like I said, that tomorrow Sunday it's my dad's off in the middle of when I was sharing. So we have decided that every Sunday from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, all four of us are going to sit and we are going to talk or maybe play a board game. And I'm somebody who's really bad at board games. I lose every time. And I still keep my ego aside, I go every Sunday, 8 o'clock. I'm sitting with them and I'm playing a board game. Even though I lose, I'm like, koi baat nahi, apne ghar wale hain, it's fine. I lose. It's not a competition. We're having fun. You know, just come up with an activity that all four of you like. And please, no watching movies, no watching TV, because that's a passive activity. You don't interact with each other. All four, five of you, all seven, 10 of you, whosoever is in the family, are just sitting there doing nothing. No, watch maybe a clip, watch maybe a movie, and discuss among yourself. That discussion is what will get you closer. Communication is what will get you closer. Also, little acts that make you happy and make your family happy. So we had Mother's Day, I think, in May. So my mom is somebody who like works overtime, takes care of everyone in the family. So on Mother's Day, what me and my brother decided is we woke up really early, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was the lockdown. So we made her favorite breakfast, tea, and we do this every year, but it's just one day in a year, and it makes her feel happy. So maybe just doing one act a week for your family member, one family member, and help them, make them feel valued, make them feel appreciated and seen. So it will help you come closer as a family. Actions over words.
Thank you so much, Nisha, for sharing your expertise with us today. I'm so sorry for all the comments that we couldn't address, but I'm pretty sure Ms. Nisha would be more than willing to address them at some later point. Thank you for sharing your comments with us on the live stream so that we could take it up and have a fruitful discussion. We will start with our second session shortly. Thank you
So
once
much for
again
having
for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all the participants. Thank you for the lovely interaction, and I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, everyone, take care. Bye bye.
So our next speaker for today is Dr. Janki Diol, the co-founder and director of Samiksha Sports, India's first consultancy service in sports psychology. Dr. Diol has worked for over a decade in this field with more than 2,700 plus athletes, 500 plus coaches, and over 1,000 parents in India. We are grateful to have you, Dr. Diol, with us, addressing the role of sports and exercise as a means to improve mental health and give us recommendations on what we can do despite the current circumstances that compel most of us to stay indoors.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with all the students and speaking about the role of exercise, physical activity, and sport, and how that can contribute towards a positive mental health during this pandemic. So thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next 1 hour.
Thank you.
So let me just give you all a it was a very nice introduction. Just going further on that introduction, Samiksha, like was introduced, is India's first and most trusted sport and performance psychology consultancy. We've worked with more than 10,000 athletes over the last decade. Worked with a lot of sports organizations across the country. And we've also done work in schools with a lot of PE teachers and a lot of coaches. And I'm looking forward to bringing some insight from that work also in today's session. Um, so these are just some of the clients that we've worked with over the last 10 years, which includes Olympic Gold Quest, Virat Kohli Foundation, Prakash Padukone Badminton Academy, and several other sports institutes. Some of the schools that we've worked with is, St. Mary's ICSC in Mumbai. We worked with the Somya school in Mumbai. Also worked with a couple of schools in Pune. And what we've really been involved in at schools is to help PE teachers focus on the role of the mind while educating children in physical activity. And I think that is also a very important role that PE needs to integrate, where the focus is not only on the physical fitness of children, but also the mental fitness of children. So today I'm actually going to be talking about two things. One is, how do you use exercise and physical activity for your own mental health and how that has positive benefits. And the second point being, as I'm assuming most of y'all are into physical education. So how, as physical educators, how you should also be able to focus on, the impact of PE um, into the benefits that it has for the mind. So let me just give you all a quick understanding about sports psychology and how it relates to physical activity and the mind. So sports psychology is really the study of two things. The first thing being how physical activity, exercise, and sport affects our emotions and our feelings, and also vice versa. So how is it that our emotions and feelings in turn also affect what we feel like doing physically, whether we feel like participating in physical activity and sport. So sports psychology really deals with both these things, and we will be touching upon both of these things in today's session. Sorry. So before we go ahead, here is just a question for all of y'all, and the participants who are viewing. I would request them to put your comments during this interaction in the chat section. So I'm sure you all can see a beautiful scenic tree there with a nice background at the back. I want you all to tell me what is it that you all can observe in this image. And if you can put your answers in the comment section, I'll be able to see that. So just a simple question, what is it that you all can see in this image? So just giving a couple of minutes for you all to write that down in the chat section. All right, so I can see some comments. Maybe you can clearly see the tree. You can see the mountains at the back. You can see the grass. You can maybe see the sun shining through the tree. And that is what most of you all would observe and would kind of respond. And I want you all to think about yourself as the tree, which looks beautiful here, which is well grown and a healthy tree. And that is like our physical body. The soil at the bottom, or the green grass at the bottom, is where the nutrition grows into the tree. Yes, peaceful nature, a green place. Someone says a star, the sun, correct. So like I said, the tree is like you, your physical self. The soil is the nutrition that you get. Yes, there are the clouds, and these are the things that are around us. But one thing that nobody has mentioned in the chat section yet, and most of us actually miss out on, is the air or the atmosphere around the tree, which is also contributing for the tree to be so healthy and beautiful. And the reason why that is not mentioned, or we don't easily observe that, is because that is something that is actually felt. So although we can see that it's peaceful and it's a scenic image, we don't mention about the atmosphere because it's something that you only sense and only feel. And our mind is actually just very similar. So like I said, if you yourself are the tree, the nutrition is something that is objective, that can be observed. But the mind is like the air or the atmosphere that is there in this image, which, because it is not seen, it is not mentioned. And we often do that to our own minds as well, that because we don't see what's happening, because it is not always observable, we often ignore what's happening to the mind. But it is a big contributor to what is happening to our physical self also. And that is the most important reason why it should be given attention. Without understanding the importance of the mind in physical activity, in exercise, in sport, it remains incomplete. So that is basically what we're going to touch upon as we go ahead, and hopefully this example kind of emphasized on why the mind is really, really important. So coming to the current scenario and the situation that all of us are in, the pandemic, which has been very, very challenging and difficult for everybody, and we are all taking steps to protect ourselves and to shield ourselves from the COVID-19, and to ensure that we don't succumb to something like that as individuals. So there are simple things that all of us are doing. Washing hands regularly, maintaining social distancing, using a face mask as a shield. But we are all, as we heard in the earlier session, we are all going through a lot also mentally. But what are we really doing what are we really doing, and what kind of a shield are we putting in place for our minds? Maybe most of us are doing nothing. Again, because it's physically possible to place a mask on your face, we are doing that. But we don't pay attention to how there can be a, in a sense, a mask for our own minds, to ensure that we don't succumb to the stress or the anxiety that the COVID-19 is presenting us with. So what we're going to also talk about is, how do we have a coping shield for our own minds, to ensure that we don't we're able to take this challenge on as positively as possible and cope with the pandemic. So why is it necessary to have a coping shield? I want you all to think about a mind like a mobile phone. As you use your mobile phone through the day, which I'm sure all of us have been doing extensively. What happens is your battery drains out, and it keeps draining and draining, and there can be a time when your phone switches off. And our mind is exactly like that, especially under a stressful situation that we are all going through. Our mind uses all its reserves, it uses all its resources to help us. And using these resources also means that these resources get depleted, and it can also happen that if we don't have a coping shield for ourselves, our mind can shut down just like your phone shuts down. So to be able to, just like we recharge our phone, it is also important that we recharge our mind and have a protective shield for our minds as well, so that your mind does not shut down like a phone shuts down. So what are the reasons for our mind really to shut down? In today's day, there are a couple of reasons. One is, all of us are adjusting this new way of new mode of learning, like we are doing right now, which is a online webinar. So new way of learning, also new way of teaching, if some of you all are into physical education. So new way of teaching and learning both has been quite challenging. Although it has helped a lot of us. Not everyone has been able to adapt to it very quickly. It is sometimes difficult to be able to connect to the teacher, or as a student, it is difficult to understand the impact and the effectiveness of what is really being taught. The second thing, of suffering from how to really manage that. Exposure to a lot of negative news, whether you realize or not, also has an impact on our minds. And I think the most important is the social isolation. Although it is meant to be social distancing, we're of course isolated, unable to meet friends, which are all challenges that we are all facing. And what coping really means, and what having that coping shield really means, is to make sure that each one of us individually have a coping mechanism, have a coping strategy to deal with these challenges. What happens often is that some of us who have natural tendencies of fighting these challenges and coping well with challenges, we may be able to find our way around. And also by using other means, like in the earlier session was discussed, where happen to find your way around. But a lot of times, individuals who have a more passive way of being, and are not very active about helping themselves, you can crumble under these challenges and pressures. So it is important that each one of us have identified what is the way for us individually to ensure that we are dealing with these challenges in the best possible way for each one of us. Um, so the strategy, there are many strategies, and again there was some mention which I also heard about, using music, writing things down. If you feel angry, write it down, tear it apart. But a very active way, and one of the most known manner in which helps mental health in a positive way is physical activity. And it is very important, especially, like I said, I believe most of you all are in physical education. You got to practice what you preach, and thus it is important that all of us remain physically active and physically healthy, not only for the body but also for the mind, which is one of the strongest shields that the mind can have to cope with a stressful situation like the pandemic that we are going through. So how is it that physical activity helps the mind? In many ways. In a sense, what it does is it releases something called the endorphins, which is called a happy hormone. It helps us feel happy. It reduces our stress and pressure. It helps us build confidence and self-esteem. It improves our daily mood. And a large population is also believed to recover from anxiety and depression just through physical activity. So it is also used as an intervention, and that is why its importance, even in young children and older adults, is so important. So physical activity is something that anybody, right from a very early age to adulthood, into as well as elderly, can do in different manners. And its effectiveness and impact is there on each kind of population. So it has a lot of positive benefits, basically due to the hormones that physical activity releases, and therefore, and it is a positive way for those hormones to be released, and that is the reason why it needs to be followed on a regular basis, almost as a discipline for yourself. If it is not done as a discipline, it is not effective. To give you an example, although I think that the one thing to understand is that for mental health, physical activity is a preventive measure, and not a curative measure. And what I mean by that is, you don't want to wait till something goes wrong and till you don't feel well mentally, and then you try to seek help, or you may just even go to your doctor, and then you may be prescribed a medicine, or you may go through therapy, which is all curative. You're doing all these things after you face a problem. Whereas physical activity, exercise, and sport is a preventive measure, which means that you are trying to protect yourself, you are trying to build that shield for yourself so that you never face that problem. And that is why it is so very important to engage in physical activity. So it becomes, it's a very strong mechanism to help your mind, not only your body but also your mind, to be healthy and active. So there are different ways in which an individual can be engaged in physical activity. According to the WHO, 30 minutes of exercise every single day, in whichever manner and format that you feel comfortable, depending on your age, your interest, is something that you should follow. It is something that you should definitely do as a discipline, like I said. Like I said, it is a part of your self-care, and it has to be a priority for your individual self and also for your closed ones, which is something that you should encourage, especially being in the field of physical education. Its impact and effectiveness in children is very high. So you should encourage children to be active for life. So especially with children, it is not about competition. It is not about who's more physically fitter and who's better in sport than somebody else. It is about being active for life. It is about choosing, loving the activity, developing love for physical activity and sport, and being able to stay engaged in physical activity and sport for your whole life. So a minimum of a 30-minute every day is something that every individual should be doing in an active manner. and that does require some amount of discipline. But it is just like we saw in the picture of that image of this of the tree. If you're able to eat healthy food every day, or just consume food every day, just in the same manner we should be able to exercise on an everyday basis. It is just as important as your food for your, for the tree to grow in that manner. Just like that food is important, the nutrition is important, so is your mind. And at the end of the day, it is important to be aware of how you're feeling mentally. So check where your mental strength battery is. Is it recharged or is it depleting? And if it is depleting, again, take some active measures to stay physically active. So there are of course some drawbacks of not being physically active. It can Not being active can lead to poor mental health in children as well as adults and elderly. Regular physical activity improves cognition, memory, problem solving, confidence, mood, like we discussed. So it has a lot of benefits, with no risks and no hazards at all, unless you get onto exercise dependence, which is another extreme completely. But 30 minutes to 1 hour of physical activity is only does you good. So you should definitely engage in that. It also helps you feel resilient. It is also important that while doing your physical activity, you not only focus on what it is giving you physically. Often my experience has been that anybody who engages in sport or physical activity focuses on, how it is making them feel physically. So, people say that I feel good, I sweat so much. I ran a couple of kilometers, and that was so good. My body feels so fresh, which is all good, which is all extremely important also. But also do pay attention to what physical activity does to your mind. The same goes with a lot of different forms of physical activity. For example, yoga. We all know the importance of yoga for the mind, but how often do we really pay attention to how being in a certain yoga pose is helping your mind? It often you often kind of emphasize on the physicality of sport and physical activity or yoga or exercise. But it is important that you go beyond that physicality and focus on the mental benefits. And you will only be able to understand those mental benefits when you consciously, deliberately pay attention to that. It does not happen automatically. It takes time and it takes effort. So without that, it will not benefit you mentally. Same goes with food, right? You don't just see food and you don't gulp it down. You enjoy food, you relish food, and that is when it benefits your body. And the same goes with exercise as well. You need to enjoy it, relish it, understand its effectiveness, go beyond the physicality of it, focus on the positive feeling that it's giving you mentally, and that is when it will start helping you mentally. So it builds your coping skills, resilience. It forms a strong shield. Having 30 to 45 minutes of physical activity every day boosts your physical and mental health, and improves your ability to cope with the challenges that we previously saw on the screen. Some of the challenges that we've all been going through during that pandemic. So here is a small task for y'all. You can see that in red there are some unhealthy coping strategies that we all unconsciously may use. We don't always do things consciously, so there are some strategies that we may use unconsciously. On the right are some strategies that we may follow for a healthy coping mechanism and for a healthy coping way, which we may or we may not take. I want you all to go through each of these points, and again reply in the comments section, just for your own identification, really, that are you following an unhealthy coping strategy right now, or are you following a healthy coping strategy right now? So again, I'm just going to give you all 5 minutes to go through that list, for your own self-awareness, which is the beginning, really, which is the first step, to see whether you are following, whether you have built a healthy shield for yourself or whether you have not. So If you can just go through the list, I'll give you all 5 minutes and then I'll go through your comments. So I will just read it out also till the time you all are doing it. So unhealthy coping strategies include isolating yourself completely. It does not only mean physically but also mentally. Like in the earlier session, it was discussed about communicating. So you have to be connected to your family, to your friends. So if you are isolating, and it can sometimes happen just as a process of being in that situation, you may just start feeling okay being isolated, but if that is happening, then that is unhealthy. Consuming alcohol, drugs, and other forms of abuse, too much or too little sleep. If you are procrastinating sleep at night, it is extremely unhealthy. Remember that your brain is like that mobile which needs to be recharged. So if you are not sleeping, you are not recharging your mind, and eventually that is going to be hazardous to you physically and mentally. Overeating or undereating again happens to a lot of us, but we need to be consciously aware about that as well. Buying things online, shopping just because that could be the only thing you're doing, but again, that is not a solution, because unless you need it. So that is also not healthy. Hurting yourself, feeling like you want to hurt yourself or others out of frustration, out of anger, is also not healthy. And generally procrastinating or avoiding to do things, whether it's to do with your work or your household chores, that is also unhealthy. So these all mean that you are not able to form that healthy shield. Um, Whereas your healthy coping strategies include consciously eating healthy, putting in effort into making or having healthy food, exercise at least 30 minutes every day, good sleep, reaching out or at least having social support within your family system, resolving problems, not procrastinating them or not avoiding them, developing hobbies for yourself. I think this was also something that was mentioned earlier. So which is very important to mentally and physically both. If you feel the need, not hesitating and asking for professional help, and following a daily routine and a schedule for yourself so that your mind is in tune with your body, and every day is effective, and a positive day for you, which is also important. So good. I see some very nice comments. I can see Sam saying that I'm grateful I've been able to use a healthy coping strategy. Quite a few, not all. Of course, we may not never be 100 on 100, but even if you feel that you're an 80 on 100, you're there, you're doing well, which is great. Of course, try to improvise and try to integrate the other things also. But this is good that most of you all are able to follow a healthy coping strategy. If not, do not wait. That you don't even need to wait till tomorrow. You need to definitely start changing and building onto having a healthy coping shield for yourself mentally. Although because we don't see it, do not ignore it. Try to start working on it. Like I said, what happens eventually is that if you don't take this seriously and if you do not give this attention, you then have to look to curative measures of looking after yourself, whether it's physically or mentally. So it's best to look at it in a preventive manner and take those steps that are required to be taken on an everyday basis. So I can see someone saying that I am sleeping a little lesser, so too little sleep and under eating. So although passively these are things that happen for us, it is important that you again pay deliberate attention and actively do something about it. Try and put in effort into resting, even if you're not able to fall asleep. You can listen to a meditation, not watch anything, but listen to a meditation. We all have access to things like that. Or just breathe, listen to music. So relaxing is important for your mind if you're not able to sleep. So do the best that is possible. I can see someone saying that I do everything unhealthy except the first two, which means that there is something that you definitely need to give yourself more attention. because even if you don't feel the impact right now, you may feel this impact in the near future, or we don't know how long we are going to be in such a scenario and a situation. So best to kind of pull up your socks and do something hands on about that. Yes, I think someone has made a really nice comment saying your mind and body are related. So whatever you're doing for your mind is also obviously going to help your body. Your mind is really like the engine that runs your body. So till your engine is well fueled, it is well serviced. Your engine, your body, which is the machine, will not function to its fullest. So it's important that you look after it really well. So I'm just going to move a little ahead and give you all some tips, some further tips as to what you all can do to pay more active and deliberate attention. Every morning, try and follow routine when you wake up. Think and recognize about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what are the things that you're going to act upon today. This is a very simple thing to do. Make time for quiet. Turn off your TV, turn off your phone with deliberation. It may not be easy to do that because we're all getting so used to it. Give yourself a moment of stillness and calm. You could maybe start with just 2 minutes. Initially, you may also find that those 2 minutes are difficult. Those 2 minutes of stillness or calm are difficult, but that will just tell you how used to we all have become to gadgets and to the screen. So start with 2 minutes. Try and going to 3 minutes. Give yourself that stillness and calm. 10 minutes within 24 hours is literally nothing. Ideally, it should be a lot more, but a realistic expectation can at least be that much. Form a checklist for yourself. Put that up on your room. Put that up on your fridge. Anywhere that you see every day. Eat healthy. Drink enough water. I think we all tend to forget about that. Exercise daily, like we've been focusing on. Take time for yourself for that stillness moment. Sleep well, again, very important. And coming back to the first point, be attuned to what you're thinking, feeling. A lot of times your thoughts, your feelings may have repercussions not only for yourself but also ones who are living with you in your family, or your friends who you are in contact with. um, Being in this situation is not easy, can lead to a lot of frustration, anxiety, anger, and that can impact others. If you are mindful, if you are aware, you can control that, avoid that, and help yourself. So these are some simple things that you all can follow. There are some other things that are written down under the umbrella. If possible, go outside for a stroll. Of course, wear your mask and follow the other rules that you're supposed to follow. Acknowledge your feelings, fuel your bodies, stay hydrated, like I said. Take time for yourself. Put your health first in this situation. Of course, work can be hectic, and education, if you're studying, can also be demanding, especially adjusting to the new things. But also give yourself some time, both physically and mentally, which is important. um, One thing that I would like to say to y'all, if y'all are interested in sports psychology and physical activity, and how it has an impact on mind, and how you can implement certain things for yourself, or if you're working in the field of physical education, we actually have an online certificate course in sport and performance psychology for students like y'all. It's a 1 month self-paced course. If you all are interested, do visit our website and you will find the details about that there. And it's an easy kind of program to do. You get a certificate at the end of it. So if you find this field interesting, and if you feel it'll benefit you individually or professionally, that is something that you can definitely take up. So overall, I think generally that's about it from me. If you feel that you do need any professional help individually or for someone else, do drop us an email. Like I said, that should be that's a curative measure. But if you are in that situation, do not hesitate. If you feel you have other contacts which may provide you this professional help, approach anybody possible, whoever you feel comfortable approaching, but do not procrastinate and hesitate from doing that. I would request you all to drop questions if you all have. I would actually like to spend more time doing that to address what you really would like to know. So I'll take any questions that you all have. Um, so I can see a question here saying when I'm sleeping in night, my mind is thinking something. I think a couple of things that you should do to kind of address that. One is, wherever it is that you sleep in your bed, you have to ensure that you go to that place only when you want to sleep at night. We often, all of us do that. We read books, being on bed. We are on our mobile phones in the bed. Sometimes we eat on the bed. So your mind actually disassociates from the activity of sleeping. It does not know what you're there for, because you're doing all sorts of things, whether it's being on a mobile phone or your laptop or sleeping. So it's important that to for your mind to associate the bed with just sleeping. It is important that you do that. That's the only thing that you do when you're sleepy, or when it's your time to sleep. That is when you go to bed. Please do not sit in your beds and look at your mobile phones and tire yourself so much that you fall asleep. I think that is a big no. So do that. You can put your phone aside. You can play some music if that helps you relax. But be in your bed when you are ready to sleep. And it may take some time for your mind to associate to that activity again. But you will have to go through that process because you've actually broken that association. So if that helps. Could you suggest a few psychological strategies to take up an exercise routine and stick with the same? So I think simple strategies such as breathing techniques. We have a lot of techniques which are available to learn even online, such as pranayam, tratak for concentration and focus. So you can use strategies from yoga for your mind along with some physical poses from yoga for your body, and follow 5 to 6 exercises and mental routines from yoga on a daily basis. Like I said, 20 to 30 minutes every day as a minimum is not very difficult. So I think to adapt to yoga is very easy. There is so much available to learn from. So I would suggest that yoga has a great combination of psychological strategies and exercise. So put in 5 to 10 exercises for yourself and follow them every day, and that should definitely help you. So there's another question. Is learning about motor skills be helpful for the children at early age and teaching them about the body mechanics and how they work? So I believe that till the age of about 10 to 12, different motor skills is something that every child should be exposed to. In the field of sport, we often mention about late specialization and not specializing in one sport or one physical activity very early on. Let your children play different sports, or do different physical activities. We don't know when sport is going to open up, but whether it's skipping, jumping, running, whatever it is that you can do at home, dribble with a football, tap, if you have a racket and a ball at home, let your children tap with it, throw the ball, kick the ball. So I think developing different motor skills through different activities is something that should definitely be the focus. I think it is after the age of 10 or 12 that you can actually also maybe start explaining the mechanics of how it works. If they are younger than that, they may not really understand that. Let them just enjoy the sport. You're not required to get into too much about education about how every single movement is going to help them. Let them enjoy the movement, let them fall in love with that movement so that they want to do it again. So we all see that children love to run. That is something that comes to every human child very naturally. So let them enjoy that. What happens during running is something that they can learn much later. So if that answers your question. Tips on coming back to playing sports after a ligament knee injury. I think there are two things that need to be considered after an injury. The first thing is, of course, the physical recovery of the knee injury, which a physiotherapist or your sports medicine doctor will look into. The second thing that needs to be looked into by typically a sports psychologist is the mental recovery after the knee injury, which is also important. And I'll give you an example. So let's say that there is a badminton player who's gone through an injury, and then he's coming back on court and playing again. Every time he's going to lunge, if he's going to feel, what if I get injured again, he's not going to be able to do that action. And that is where a role of a sports psychologist comes in, to see whether the athlete has, or the player has, recovered mentally from that injury. And if he has not, then there needs to be a protocol that is followed. And a sports psychologist or a psychologist will actually work on that athlete to make sure that mentally also he's recovered and he's overcome the fear of doing any action or being on court and playing freely. So that's important, definitely. How can people use sport as a coping mechanism even though playing sport is restricted during these times? I think you can't go outdoor and particularly play a team sport. And actually team sport is supposed to have major benefits in terms of socially feeling good. However, that's not happening. So what you can do right now is, if you can try and do some sports activities within your family. If you have children, engage them in it. So find games that could be based with a bat and a ball, or a racket. If you can put a net, so try and create a almost like a simulated environment, if possible, around you, with your family, and try and engage in. You can't engage in sport because you can't do that, but you can do activities that are based in sport. So for example, if you have space, you can do sprints. If you can skip. If you have a racket and a shuttle, you can place a net and start playing badminton. So we all have to find innovative ways of being engaged in sport, because we can't actually play sport right now. And we've done that everywhere now. If we can have an online webinar, and we are able to be innovative with learning, I'm sure we can all be innovative with sport if you're really determined and disciplined to engage in it. So how to motivate and maintain fitness of school level athletes indoors during a pandemic? That's a very good question, and a tough one also. It is difficult to motivate just being across a screen. However, a simple strategy that I feel has worked is, when you do have your online classes, and most classes or lectures will have breaks, whether it's a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break. um, do a physical activity with them. It can be a simple activity where a child stands up, or you can ask him to go and take a round and come back. And it is just really breaking that inertia that children may start getting due to being in this situation. So as educators or as teachers, um, or as students, that is something that you should do when your classes are going on. When you are doing something like this, you can get up and do something physically. I think a simple way that I often follow in my sessions, not doing that today, is that even while I'm doing a session, stand up for 2 minutes. And standing also is a physical activity. It is much better than sitting down. So find innovative ways of doing something small. There are a lot of, again, yoga poses that can be done sitting on a chair. So engage in and involve in physical activity during your classes, whether you're a student or an educator. And that is the first step, really, to begin motivating and maintaining basic fitness of school children. What is the best career option after completing bachelor's of physical education and sport? I think the scope is huge. The first question really is whether you would like to do something in the private sector or in the government sector. Of course, teaching is one thing, but I think there is scope beyond that. You can get into, if, for example, if you are creative, you can get into content writing. You can also learn psychology and get into counseling. So I think the kind of doors are wide open, and there are different areas that you can go into, which is beyond just teaching. But I think the first thing for anybody to think about is in what direction you would like to go into, whether you would like to get into a private job or a government job, and then take that decision about what the options are for you. Any more questions? Why is everyone feeling frustrated with the COVID? I think it's obvious. We are we are all meant to be social beings, and we are humans are meant to be social beings, and we are doing exactly the opposite of that. So what we are by nature is something that we are not able to do, and that is bound to make us feel frustrated. Will the outlook change? Yes, definitely. It may take. I think the first thing is that your own individual outlook is from within. Although the situation is not ideal in today's day, you should try and do the best that is possible. Try and do things that are in your control, and not focus too much on what is not in your control, and that is pretty much what leads you to feel frustrated. um, and I think eventually things are going to change. We are not going to be in this situation forever. And I think that positive hope is something that will also help you change your outlook. So feeling frustrated is a completely normal feeling. And that was the whole point of what I was saying, that we are going to feel these difficult emotions. And we need to find and build our own shield that is going to help us deal with these difficult challenges. So try and build that own shield for yourself. Make sure your physical activity is one of the most important things in that shield. And the other things, for example, your sleeping on time, your nutrition, maybe engaging in a hobby that you enjoy, being connected with your family. These are all things that are going to make a strong shield for yourself. So make sure you're building that will help you overcome the frustration that you are feeling.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deol. We have time for some more questions. If anyone would like to put it in the comment section.
So there's one interesting question, and I'd like to answer that. While starting exercise, sometimes we feel very tired, and sometimes we feel very energetic. Why is it so? I think the answer to that is really simple. Um, the way we feel while you start engaging in a physical activity or exercise, when you just begin, the way you feel really depends on your sleep, your mood, how the earlier day has been, whether you're stressed, whether you're not stressed. No matter what you're feeling, you should still go through that activity, because eventually you will feel better once you have completed. But your mood and how you're feeling is the reason for why sometimes you feel energetic and sometimes you feel tired. So if you are stressed, if you have not slept well, if you're not looking after your nutrition and hydration, you are pretty much going to feel tired while doing your physical activity. So it's important that you look after all those things also, because they run in a cycle really. And if you have slept well, if you are feeling good, you will feel energetic. Like initially I explained when we started that our emotions have an impact on our physical activity, and our physical activity also has an impact on our emotions. So if you are not feeling great, but if you do go out for a run or a skip, then you will feel better eventually. So you will have to push yourself through that a little bit, of course, not exerting, because you're not feeling up to the mark. So it shouldn't hamper you. But that's the real reason for why that happens. Any other questions? So I think there's a question which is I mostly get up at 3 a.m. every night. Is it normal? No, it is not normal. So you should seek professional help if that has been happening for more than a week, definitely. Um, uh, it also depends on what time you sleep, but I'm assuming it's a regular maybe between 10 to 11. But it is not normal, so it can also happen due to extreme stress and anxiety. So do seek some help that will help you with that.
Would anyone like to post any more questions? I
There's
think we
another
have
question. Sorry, just maybe one last question.
no problem.
How to concentrate? That's an interesting one. So I think there's a myth about concentration a little bit. We often feel that at a go we should be able to concentrate for a long stretch. That is not how our concentration really works. If you all are aware, a goldfish's memory lasts for a couple of seconds, and that's how our concentration is also. What our mind needs to learn to do is switch on and switch off, so you can't concentrate for a whole day together. If you are working for, let's say, 3 hours, you need to take a 15-minute break and then work for 3 hours, and then take another short break and then work for 3 hours, and that is the way to concentrate. So if you are expecting of sometimes you need to push yourself a little more because the situation demands it. But on an everyday basis, you are not meant to concentrate from 9 to 5 at a stretch. You do need some break for your mind to be able to concentrate again. So learn to kind of switch on and switch off. Like I said, yoga has a lot of simple strategies that can help you improve your concentration if concentration is really a problem. So even within those 3 hours, if you're not able to concentrate, that is when you need to develop your concentration. Like I said, there are a lot of strategies. There is a strategy called Tratak in yoga, which is a very helpful strategy for concentration. Um, and that is something that you can look at maybe to improve.
Thank you, Dr. Deol, for a lovely session. I'm sure a lot of us benefited from learning the different techniques that we can use to cope up during the pandemic. We thank our viewers for sending in questions, and we apologize if we were not able to address any of them. I now hand over the session to Ryan for a brief vote of thanks.
Healing takes time, and asking for help is a courageous step. Good afternoon to you all. It's my privilege to propose a word of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this national webinar possible. It was lovely to see so many of you took that first step and joined us here today. As we have come to an end of this webinar, I hope you have benefited from it and managed to find effective ways to cope with the stress during this ongoing pandemic. I would like to express my immense gratitude to our spokesperson, Ms. Nishta Budiraja and Dr. Janki Diol, for taking the time to address these issues in a way that was understandable and beneficial to everyone listening in. I am immensely thankful to Ms. Zenita De Mello for a major part in the organization of this event and also for anchoring today's event. A special thank you to our manager, Reverend Father Joachim Lobo, and the principal of the college, Dr. Cedric Silvera, for their continued guidance and motivation. I would also like to thank the people who worked behind the scenes to make this event possible. Our video editing team, our technical team, and all the staff members for their enormous cooperation within the organization of this gala event. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each and one of you for taking the time out to attend this webinar. A small request to you all to please fill in the feedback form that you will receive shortly. Certificate will be issued to your respective email IDs after filling in the feedback form. Thank you.
Thank you